Hello, everyone. This is the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast about political commentary, a sprinkling of philosophy, organizing psychology, and revolutionary thinking. My name is 4AS, and welcome to this zero point 0.5 episode. It's been a little while since we've done one of these, and joining me today is Kareem the Dream and Big D. How are you boys doing today?
Good, man. No, it was like you said, it's been a while since we've done a 0.5, so let's see what changes. I'm super keen on this episode you got lined up for us today, though. So I'm sure it could go in some interesting directions. So
Yeah,
don't
how
know.
about yourself, Big D? How are you going today?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit sunburnt, but I'm hoping there's no heat stroke there. But see how we go.
Uh,
First time on the what is it, 0.5?
yes,
Um,
yes. Just to kind of give you context, Big D, we usually for the zero point 0.5 episodes, we kind of take a case study. So in this scenario, the case study will be something that Kareem recently introduced me to, which was Conversa AI. Just for clarification, with Conversa AI, Kareem, is this a concept? Is this like an actual thing, or
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that I was working on actual things. Pretty much everything I work on is conceptual, because I'm not. I don't have the building genes apparently.
right? Okay,
This
because
and to build this one, incredibly difficult, like incredibly difficult. So you've got to have everything sorted out before it gets off the ground. But
yeah, but everything starts with an idea, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah,
but
but
yeah. All I was going to say is that the I guess with this case study behind Conversa AI, it leads into a topic that I've wanted to discuss with with Mr. E, with yourself on the podcast for a while now, and this is actually a really good platform or launching pad into that, which is radical empathy and humanism. But first things first, like anything with these sort of podcasts, it's probably best to kind of start with the definition. So let me go
sure.
into a definition of what humanism is and what radical empathy is. So, humanism is a philosophical and ethical stance that centers human dignity, agency, and the capacity for reason, creativity, and moral growth. In organizational life, humanism translates into practices and cultures that affirm intrinsic worth. So people are ends in themselves, not just instruments for productivity. They prioritize autonomy and participation, so voice, choice, and co-creation over control and compliance. Cultivative flourishing, so psychological safety, learning, purpose, and well-being,
Mhm.
not just output, and lean on evidence and reason. Whereas radical empathy, the definition for that is um, radical empathy goes beyond everyday empathy, so feeling for someone, by adding deliberate perspective taking, systematic awareness, and action orientation. It typically includes deep perceptive taking, so actively imagining the other person's constraints and needs, even when they differ from your own values or status. Context sensitivity, so recognizing structural forces, so power, culture, history, and inequities, shaping behavior and feelings. Boundary care, so empathy with healthy limits, not savior dynamics or emotional overreach. And commitment to repair, so turning understanding into constructive behaviors, whether that's
Mm.
apologizing, adapting processes, rebalancing power, or changing norms. Now, with that definition, I think when you sent the kind of outlines for Conversa AI, you kind of showed it as a social intelligence AI. And
Yeah,
look, the best analogy I can make with it, which hopefully the listeners and the viewers can go along with it, or at least understand where I'm coming from for this, is basically, we have translators between languages. So I'm I'm in a meeting and and I'm a person speaking English, another person who's fluent in Italian. We have a translator that speaks both English and Italian. Um, when I was reading about this Conversa AI concept, you basically have uh, disciplinary like translator. It's you have somebody that so this Conversa AI. You have somebody who's in physics and then another person who's a policymaker. If they're both talking about, you say, the constraints of a project, or very specific jargon, maybe within that jargon, the physics person is talking about the methodology of um, of the project that they're wanting to do, whereas the policymaker is talking about the risks involved.
Yeah.
That Conversa AI is the translator between the different disciplines and saying, hey, this is actually what the physicist is concerned about. And hey, physicist, this is what the policymaker is concerned about. And is able to translate the different modalities or the different structures between the disciplines and translate for them. So
Hmm.
rather than you just having a language interpreter, you have a discipline, uh, 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 a translator between the various disciplines, and I
Yeah.
actually think that could be used for like quite a lot of different uh, case uses. So, is that an accurate representation?
Look, so I suppose there's that's one of the functions that
Okay.
Converse AI is projected to have. And when I say projected to have, like really at this stage, all we're talking about is the theoretical capabilities that an AI system could have
Hmm.
if it's been trained on really specific data. So if we work out exactly what data we want to train it on to make it socially intelligent, it will have the ability to be able to translate between different disciplines. Like it will understand. The main example that it brought up to me was take the word like significance. Now, if you're a
Hmm.
statistician or you're a scientist and you hear the word significance, um, what that means is something very specific in statistical terms, which if you're outside of the field of science and you use the word significant, you probably didn't mean what it meant on a scientific level. So being able to take words like that, where someone uses a word, it has multiple meanings in the same setting, and have the AI decipher what meaning was actually relevant at this point in time in the conversation. That would be one of the many functions that I'm projecting this AI to have. So, but let's yeah, let's. I mean, we can go more into that a little bit later. I'm keen to unpack this radical empathy a little bit more. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
sure. And maybe we can go into, because obviously maybe I was drilling down a bit too much as to the point of social intelligence AI. So
no,
maybe
but
we yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
go
are
for it.
spot on though. Like that is
Yeah.
that is definitely one of the functions that we needed to have if we wanted to be able to facilitate conversation, particularly in terms of like interdisciplinary dialogue. Because what happens with people, what happens with experts is the more you learn about one topic, the more relevant the jargon of that topic becomes to you.
Mm,
Uh, where that jargon might overlap with the jargon of a different topic, those words might not be being used in exactly um, the same intention. So
right,
it's like we needed to have that capability, but we needed to have like 100 times more than that as well. So it's
right.
and I'm happy to guide you through sort of its construction and how it all works. But I am keen
Yeah,
to delve more into radical empathy and what it's all about and
I
what it means
guess
to you.
yeah, because I guess with radical empathy, because one of the main ideas behind it is, well, we know that the idea of empathy is a spotlight, but I think what the whole purpose of radical empathy is actually taking actionable steps in order for you to go into somebody else's shoes and trying to I one I feel like this is just me, but because of my philosophical background, I've been able to hone my logical empathy a lot more. As in, hey, these are for this view, if you will. Um, this is premise one, two, three as to this specific argument that somebody's bringing across, and logical this is the logical conclusion of how they've come about this.
Mm,
I guess what radical empathy does is kind of turn that more into a discipline and at least a outlook, if you will, because its whole point is a deep perspective of what the other person is doing, like trying to be sensitive of how they kind of view the world. And then at least this was something that I thought as an organizational psych it might tickle your brain, is
mm,
that the idea of like understanding the boundaries of how somebody functions, and then I guess taking certain actions to not only relate to someone or and then meet compromises, or at least build bridges between people. And
mm.
that's really, at least my understanding of radical empathy, that's the whole point, is that it
Yeah,
is taking empathy to the degree of at least trying to understand someone, but like not being not being sucked into a person's view entirely,
yeah, with
but
boundaries. Yeah,
yeah, with boundaries, but then trying to at least build bridges or mend fences to be like, look, I can understand what you're saying. This is kind of what I'm saying. What I find interesting is with radical empathy is that it focuses far more on the similarities between views compared to and I guess maybe this is the bad side of the internet, is that sometimes people focusing far more on the differences rather than similarities,
yeah.
because hey, this is
It's
I
the
probably
internet.
don't have to tell a psychological student that the brain is far more zoned in on negativity than it is positivity, because
Yeah, yeah,
back in the day we were trying to run away from animals being like, oh shit, that thing's trying to eat me, compared to you probably didn't survive if you were like, oh, what that pretty flower. But yeah, I kind of feel like radical empathy is the idea of trying to relate to someone and then thinking of ways to action bridge building, if you will.
Mm, okay. Do you mind if I share a bit with you about sort of my journey with empathy and where the roller coaster has taken me?
Yeah, sure, by all means.
So, um, I um, I, 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 I guess I was a kid when I noticed empathy was coming to me like quite easily, um, and I couldn't quite figure out why it wasn't coming to everybody else quite easily. The ability to picture yourself in someone else's shoes. I'd heard about it all the time, but I didn't understand why it was such a difficult concept. Um, what I didn't know at the time was that um, I would eventually go on to develop something called hyper empathy, which can be both a blessing and a curse.
On top of his sword, yeah.
Um, yeah, if
Would you say hyper empathy is almost being sucked into another person's worldview?
well, what happens is, yeah, like it's more than
Right,
their worldview. It's like you actually feel their pain, you feel their decisions, you feel their emotions as you're going through it, and as they're going through it.
right,
And you're like, this doesn't actually like your body will actually respond with the physical sensations of that empathy. Um,
right.
but but when you step back, it's like, hang on, this doesn't actually have anything to do with me. I'm literally absorbed in what's going on for someone else. And it takes
Right.
practice over time to learn where those boundaries are and to learn
Mm.
how to disconnect yourself from someone else's experience. Because
Mm.
what can happen over time is you get like this is how it used to be for me. Once the floodgates open, like I can't close them. Like I'm literally drowning in somebody else's experience, you know. So I had to reach adulthood before I even figured out how to make it around that.
Right.
Um, but I think one of the things I learned later on in life is um, like empathy can actually be a trauma response as well. Like
Right.
if you're operating in an environment where you need to know what everybody else is feeling or what
Mm.
they're thinking in order for you to survive in that environment. Like let's say you're a kid and you don't want to get yelled at. Um, it behooves you to start getting good at empathy to figure out what's going on in the minds of the people who are around you to figure out whether or not you're actually in any danger or in any risk. So some people who go through these things will wind up developing hyper empathy. It's not it's we look at it as like we talk about empathy as though it's a desirable thing. It's something which should theoretically solve a whole bunch of the world's problems. But I think what flies under the radar, and I mean to some extent it should fly under the radar because empathy does not get enough of a mention in terms of what we should be doing to relate to each other to build a better world. But like all things, you can take it to the extreme, and and you can have some quite horrible consequences from it. So
Well, based on what you were saying, uh, like I take it probably taking empathy too far would be crippling yourself with the other person's feelings that you're
yeah,
unable to do something about it.
mm.
Like
Well,
yeah, you were saying.
yeah, like if there's literally nothing you can do about it and you're stuck there now, like you now have to manage your own emotions on top of the other person's emotions. So I'm not saying it's not a good way to relate to people. I'm saying like the personal cost of engaging in empathy, or engaging in radical empathy, um, it can be more than what people are willing to pay. Like let me give an example. If someone says my life sucks and goes into detail about why their life sucks, and you're just sitting there wanting to hold space for them, that there might not be anything you can do to actually fix that person. And the limit of what you can do for them is to just stay in that space, to just be with them while they're feeling horrible. But that involves you actually getting your hands dirty and feeling horrible as well, without any guarantee of being able to fix it. Now, some people are going to be
Mm,
willing to do that.
yeah.
Some people are not. They're going to be like, you know what? I already had a bad day. I don't need this. I'm not. I'm not. I don't come home to make myself feel worse. Like, so people can be forgiven for choosing different stances at different times. And
Yeah, but like anything in life, it's about that's learned behavior though, because don't get me wrong, I think much like you, I think recently my partner said to me that I've apparently always been skilled about holding space for other people. I didn't
Mm,
know that about myself, but
nice. Yeah,
apparently I'm really good at it. I didn't know about that, but
that's a
like
huge
sure,
compliment. Don't
I,
don't 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 play it down. Like,
oh, okay, yeah. But like, I think people might have a propensity to do something, or they might something might be more naturally to what they do, but it's still a skill in order to like
well,
do that. Like you have to. It's like going to the gym, right? You're not going to have big biceps if you don't go to the gym. A certain number of times per week. Much
yeah,
like look, Mystery's not here, so I'm going to have to say it for him.
yeah,
But in a profit making system, it's if you're about beating your competitor, um, and if you're about beating your competitor and it's you're, I guess, playing to their weaknesses or at least outdoing them in whatever thing you're trying to compete against them, um, I don't really think empathy has any place in that kind of world. You're
You'd
when
be
you're
surprised.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
actually, okay. From an organizational psych
All
perspective,
right.
how does that relate to the profit making
Yeah,
system?
yeah. Let me open the doors for you.
Okay.
Um, Again, I'm look. Let me just make it absolutely clear. Like, I think empathy is a superpower. I think everybody should have it. I think everybody should lean into it. Like, that's my default stance on it.
Okay.
That being said, it can be used in ways that are unconscionable. Yeah. So,
Right.
um, like, it's the. I don't really want to get bogged down in this, but let's go there anyway.
Okay.
From a business perspective, um, if you can empathize with your customers, then you know what your customers are willing to pay for and what they're not. You can tailor your product accordingly and make more profits. It's that simple. If you can
Well,
empathize with your customers and go, and I'm talking radical empathy here. So, and
yeah.
let
So
me
wait. So just before we go on with that point, are you basically saying that marketers are great empathizers with their customers?
not necessarily. Some might
Right.
be, some might not be. Whether or not
Right.
they're playing this card, I don't actually know. So
Okay.
I'm sure they've got a whole philosophy worked out on how to read people and what people want to buy and that sort of thing.
Right.
But at its core, like, if you're selling something and you want to know who will buy it, you will empathize with your potential customer. And then you'll try to
Yes.
figure out, is this, am I imagining this customer or not? Like, do they actually exist? What do I find them? Do they map onto what my projection is? So it's like, this is more about testing the limits of your empathy. Like it's there's no there is no greater test of your empathy than whether or not the market actually responds to what you believe people want. Like,
Yes, but like, okay, I guess the whole point of empathy and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, like, there's there's an intrinsicness to that, right? Like, surely a marketer, they might be good at empathizing with their customer, but there's kind of like a faux empathy with that, right? Because you're treating the customer as an instrument to an end, right? Rather than actually putting yourself in somebody's shoes. Like,
I I
yeah, go
I,
for it.
I get where you're going with it. Like, you're saying that, is it really empathy if it's already got a nefarious purpose to begin with? Um, and my answer is, it depends on how good of a marketer you are. Like, because your best marketers fully understand the power of empathy. Um, let me step back from marketing for a second. Let's go to
Okay.
user experience design,
Okay.
research and design. So user experience research and design is more about, how do you navigate your laptop? How do you use this app? What are your pain points? What are you struggling with? How easy is it to learn? What are you trying to do that you're not able to do? Where are you getting frustrated? Like, user experience research is all concerned about the experience that you're having while you're using a product or a service. Now, user experience researchers have a whole bunch of methodologies available to them to be able to collect data on what you're struggling with, what you're trying to do, like all those relevant questions. But part of what they do, and I've actually seen them do this in practice,
Yeah.
is called empathy mapping, basically. Like
Right. Okay.
they will literally envision their customer, talk about a user experience journey. So let's say, I, Kareem, rock up. This is what I intended to do. I navigate to this page. What's the next thought in my head? I've got to click on this link, get to this section, do this, and they piece it all together. And they're
Mm.
empathizing with the person, with the customer, throughout the whole thing. Now, that's not necessarily marketing, but it is making your product better, and it is making it better in a way that hopefully people can appreciate. So, to I wouldn't. I I don't think it's entirely nefarious using empathy from an organizational standpoint or from. But I guess I do have a bit of an issue with it. I've got a bit of an issue with marketers in general, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
So probably not a good place to start. What do you think?
My head's sort of spinning around all of this because I have a very different take on all of it. Because
Sure.
Big D, go for it. The floor is
being
yours.
neurodivergent, I have a very different sort of take on empathy, and I've only just recently discovered that sort of my experience of empathy is very different to sort of an holistic or a neurotypical experience of empathy. Like mine's more similar to what Kareem described as the hyper empathy sort of thing, and I just sort of assumed that was the norm, but I've realised that what most people refer to as empathy is sort of more akin to what I would have described as sympathy, and not to try and make any sort of like divide there or anything like that. It's just that my experience has been very different, and I didn't realise that it was so different. And there's always the idea that a lot of people have that neurodivergent people don't have any empathy at all, and it's just that it's been my experience, and it's been the experience of the people that I know who are neurodivergent. It's a different experience of empathy, and like the way that I would express it is a different. Again, like if someone was sharing a difficult situation with me, I'd run through the Rolodex in my head and try and think of something that I've experienced that would be somehow similar to that, and I'll share that with a person, and sometimes that's viewed as me trying to one up them. It's like that's how I try to relate to a person, just saying like I've had an experience that was kind of similar. I would imagine that your situation would be like that, but like times 10 kind of thing. But like this is the closest thing I have in my memory that I can relate to you with. So here's that, and here's like, can we get some sort of common ground there? And that can be misconstrued because we're coming from different places, and it's just. A lot of the stuff I'm learning about empathy is just I'm coming from a different space to what I feel a lot of people are coming from, and it's just interesting to try and put myself in the other person's shoes to see where they're coming from, and it's just it's funny when you you think about it enough and you realise that not everyone is coming from the same place with that sort of stuff, and what a lot of people may, or what I would assume. Is just sort of a baseline isn't necessarily a baseline across the board sort of thing, and
yes, I do have a partner who's a clin psych, and she actually has done assessments for quite a lot of people on the spectrum, and I have heard stories from her that especially people from the spectrum, it can be what you were kind of saying, that like. It's very reasonable from somebody's perspective that's on the spectrum. Like I guess again, it's kind of that just to kind of bring it back to the language interpreter idea of somebody who's neurotypical. Maybe what they are expecting from a conversation is maybe for someone to give them space as to talk about what their experience is, and also maybe they just want to vent as to what's going on in their life, and then you have the neurodivergent.
They really say that, right?
Sorry, what?
They rarely say that though. Most people
I
rarely say,
know.
"Yeah, I just want to vent."
But unfortunately, the world is catered to neurotypicals, and a lot of rules are unspoken, which doesn't help neurodivergent people out. Let's be honest. And then you have so let's just in this example assume that the neurotypical person is speaking Italian, and then you have the neurodivergent person who is speaking Japanese, let's say, and their way of relating to people, as you were saying before, was, oh, you have this experience in X. I also have this experience in X. Let me empathize with you and be like, hey, like obviously our situations aren't exactly the same, but like I get where you're coming from, because that situation is frustrating. Like both the non-verbal and the verbal of the neurodivergent person is saying that, but because one person's speaking Japanese and the other person's speaking Italian, they're whether it's non-verbal, whether it's verbal, there is a miscommunication there, and I don't know, maybe going back to the topic of today, Kareem, maybe Conversa AI can help with all of that, the social
Well, that's
intelligence
sort of what I was looking forward
AI. So
maybe
yes,
maybe you can help me pick up on all the subtleties that I miss out on.
Yeah,
quite
well,
keen on learning.
yes. So obviously, I've gone way too specific with what Conversa AI does, but like, okay, let's zoom out. What give us the cliff notes of what you envisage Conversa AI to be, and like what do you see Conversa AI achieving? Like cliff
Sure,
notes.
sure. So, happy to go down that route. I thought it might be useful if maybe I touched on just expanding some of the definitions that we were we've sort of been touching on here,
Yeah, yeah.
because it might be useful just to have a reference point. Again, I have seen debate over these definitions as well, so don't take any of it as hard and fast. But um, differentiating between what we call cognitive empathy, which is like, do I know what the other person is thinking, versus affective empathy, which is like, do I know what the other person is feeling, and like in both cases, you're still putting yourself in the other person's shoes. But with
Yeah.
cognitive empathy, you're just having to think about what they might be thinking about. Yeah. With affective empathy, you're actually trying to feel with your body what that other person might be feeling at this point in time as well. So um, I believe there's a whole lot of research around it actually, there might be some research around neurodivergence, and I think affective empathy was a bit more was a bit. I could be wrong, but anyway, there's distinctions among them. Well, one of the other things that gets wrapped up into this conversation as well is sympathy. So empathy versus sympathy, and I chuck compassion in there as well, just to put it on the same scale. But
Yeah.
really, the difference between empathy and sympathy is with sympathy, you understand what's going on for another person. At least this is how I understand it. But you're still remaining arm's length away from it, in that you're not willing to sort of engage with them where they're actually at. You're just like, oh, you're feeling horrible. That's a shame. Hope you get better soon. Like being willing to actually step into the space where it's like, oh wait, hang on, now I feel horrible too because you feel horrible. Okay, is this helping you? Like, is that? And you'd be surprised that actually does help a lot of the time. Like,
Really?
it's but we don't actually, well, we don't know that it helps because we don't, because quite often, when you're going through something that's so unique, that you feel like you need to vent because there's like 10 small little problems that snowballed into a massive one. Like it's in those situations, it could be rare for you to find someone who specifically understands, who's been through that exact experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're able to sort of break it down and describe to them, I went through this first, and I went through this first, and I went through this first. Like on the other end of that, when someone's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went through all of that," and they actually appreciate it in its entirety, like you don't feel so alone as being the only person who's gone through that experience. Oh, it's like, oh wow, at least somebody else understands. So sympathy. It's not that you can't have a positive effect with sympathy. It's that it's a lot harder to engage meaningfully in a relationship if all you can offer is sympathy, as opposed to empathy. Now, compassion comes at it from a different angle altogether. It's like with sympathy, there is some level of understanding. It's like, okay, you're feeling horrible. I get why. I'm just not willing to go there myself. Compassion is, I don't know what's going on for you, but I just love you. Like, I'm just gonna keep sending love and hoping you get better, even though I don't fully understand what's going on for you. So sometimes the three get used interchangeably: empathy, sympathy, and compassion.
He's done a lot.
But Brene Brown's done some amazing work on this actually. So if
Well,
anybody gets a chance,
but based on what you just described, is I kind of feel like sympathy is I feel like this is what I should do. Um, Compassion is I don't understand what you're going through, but I care enough in order to listen to what you have to say. And then
mm,
empathy is, hey, I I care about what you're going through. I feel what you are feeling, what you're going through, and I want to relate to you going through this experience.
mm,
Like
yeah, yeah,
it's basically that rung system, if you will.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you might dip in and out of all three of them over the course of one conversation.
Mm.
Like that can happen as well. So, but let me like I'll just touch on something you said earlier when you were giving the definition for empathy. You were talking about being able to relate to a person in that moment and understand what's going on for them in that moment. Like you talked about the contextual factor as
Mm.
well. So where I've sort of evolved to in my understanding is that like you can have empathy for a person as though they were just a regular other human being, like that you don't
Mm.
know anything about. You can have empathy for a person that you actually know something about, have a bit of history with, so
Mm.
you can predict, like you can understand why something might mean more to a close friend of yours than you would be able to understand it to a complete stranger. Like
Mm.
if like for example, the topic of radical empathy, I understand why it means more to you than it does to a random stranger. Like because we've
Yes.
had conversations about it before.
Mm.
But the next level of empathy, or sort of the final level of empathy, if you will, is being able to understand not just how a person is reacting at the moment, but how they are reacting based on the sum total of all of their life experiences to date.
Mm.
So when I understand, okay, 4AS is reacting to this conversation topic in this way because of X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that I can count in his life as being a contributing factor to his interest level on this subject, then I get a much deeper sense of what is actually going on for you based on what's happened for you in the past. So
Mm.
now you're not always going to have access to that information. Sometimes you need to check it out further. Sometimes you could be engaging in really intrusive probing, which is not welcome either.
Yeah.
Uh, I've made that mistake a few times. Um,
The
but
context always matters.
but yeah, like context does matter, and ultimately you're going to be limited by context. So if you had the crystal glass which showed you a person's life in their entirety from birth until that moment, and you are able to map onto what their life is, how they might be feeling at this point in time because of this situation, might have meant a little bit more because of this, a little bit less because of this. They might be tangentially worried about this happening because this was a previous experience.
Mm.
Like the number of variables in a conversation explodes dramatically. Yeah.
Yes.
And just to bring it back to sort of what you were saying like much earlier about being told that you hold space really well for others, like sometimes that is all someone needs. And if you're able to hold space for someone and just listen, then you can get a lot more of that context than you would if you were sort of trying to like waiting for your turn to speak sort of thing, and like just trying to engage in a dialogue. If you just let them talk, like they'll fill you in on a lot of the blanks, and you'll be able to create a bigger picture and have a lot more of a complete idea of where they're coming from, and have a bit more of a complete I'm not really doing my words properly, but a more not
Holistic
not
picture.
complete, yeah, like a fuller picture of where they're coming from and be able to empathize a little bit better than you would have otherwise, sort of thing. And I sort of took the long way around to get there, but yeah.
No, but like even with holding space, like sometimes you can take that to an extreme. I don't know. I don't know if Kareem knows the story, but with my partner, one of one of our first dates, she was incredibly nervous, and I at the time mistook that for she was just a great talker, and she just had a lot of things to say, and she was basically talking about, like, you know, topic X and topic Y, and I was just there. I was like, oh, okay, like, why is this important? Oh, I've never actually seen it that way. Like, what do you mean by this? And what I actually found out later is she was like, oh, I'm on this date with this guy and he's making me do all this work. And it's like, and I'm just nervous out of my head. Like, I just want him to say, like, like, you know, tell me a bit more about himself, but like, he's making this all about me. And so, like, that can actually work against you. But yeah.
I'm gonna write that one down in my book of things not to do. I'm just as likely to fall prey to that, dude.
Hey, we're still together after all this time, mate. So, like, it ended up being fine.
Must have gone right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, like with anything, there can be extremes. But I think the whole point of radical empathy, and hopefully with what we're about to discuss with conserva AI, is that it's the healthy straddling of, you know, holding space for someone to at least talk about their worldview and how they view things, and also, you know, mending the fences, or at least seeing the commonalities rather than the differences between this discipline and that discipline.
No, there's an enormous amount of room for improvement on those fronts in regular human conversation. So it's yeah, I guess you know, and this kind of ties into, you know, some of the ethical issues of building the Conversa AI system. I'm still not 100% sold on that name, but basically, this one definitely flies under the radar a whole lot, but like empathy can actually be a tool of manipulation as well. So it can be something that is used by people to get an understanding of your emotional reactions or what your motivations are, before a strategy is literally built around what your reactions and motivations are. So it can be dangerous if used with nefarious purposes. And the only reason I mention that is because I feel like any conversation about empathy wouldn't be complete unless we mention that, hey, like, this can actually go off the rails big time. So, but
can I actually give you my 2 cents of what I think you should call it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So, there's a very famous negotiation game out there. You've probably heard it before. Diplomacy.
Yeah.
But the whole point of diplomacy, even though I kind of find like the name of diplomacy, the game, is incredibly ironic, because even though the whole point of diplomacy is like, hey, you know, one nation has a certain view and another nation has a certain view. Let's kind of trade resources, you know, see what we can do in terms of getting a trade alliance or a military alliance in order to sort out somebody else. The whole point of diplomacy of the game is screwing over the other person as much as possible, and basically doing a prisoner's dilemma of, like, the I guess a prisoner's dilemma of the game. So I guess what I want, my pitch to you is that I think you should call it Diplo AI, as in literally taking how people view diplomacy as like a zero sum game, and actually flipping it on its head to to the actual definition of diplomacy, and
Yeah.
then like and actually restoring it to how it should be. Because if radical empathy and your the AI system you want to create is all about mending fences, then you should restore how diplomacy is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like the idea. I do like the idea. I'm not really attached to any names at the moment because I'm so bad at coming up with them. Um, but yeah, let's take a rain check on that one. I'll revisit it. It might grow on me, but um,
Yeah. So what were you about to
it's
say?
not AI. Um, but no, what I was going to talk about was how I'm not sure if you remember a podcast episode we did a little while back where I got Gemini to empathize with me on air.
Yes,
Um,
I do remember that. That was interesting.
yeah, yeah. So, like, it's a lot of people would call that faux empathy.
Yes.
Um, so it's like we can't explain any mechanism by which it would be having real empathy. So it must not be real. So, but um, but yeah, I mean AI already has that. So what we're proposing isn't a huge leap over and above that, and it's already like pretty damn good at doing it as well. So empathy is definitely part of the equation, but I think the other part of the equation that you described was having that shared language, that shared understanding is a huge part of effective communication as well. But let me just build the picture out for you a little bit further as to
Mm.
like what I anticipate um, this AI being able to do. Um, and where it all comes from is an AI that's trained on a proprietary data set of basically labeled human interactions. So the amount of depth that we go into actually labeling it's this person's turn to talk. This is the purpose of the dialogue act. Um, this is what subtext might be going on at this point in the conversation. This is who this person was talking to. When you can capture it like with a detailed level of granularity and train an AI model on it, it will learn to abstract all of those higher order features. So it starts low. It starts this person's turn, this person's turn. He nodded left, he nodded right, and then starts being able to take those higher level concepts out of it as it does more and more training runs with the data. But theoretically, if we had this data set and we
Mm.
trained this AI model, what it would be able to do is it would be trained on data from like professional conversation facilitators. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever had this experience, but um, there are some people in the world who are absolutely amazing at conversation. Um,
Mm.
Not just amazing at conversation, amazing at directing group conversations. So, like the way that they're able to reflect back what's happening within the group, invite new opinions, redirect questions, like be of the group and like and the group and direct the group at the same time as well. Um, you'll find that like stuff like that can be really handy for resolving conflict. Can
Mm.
be really handy for like collaboration environments where we've got a problem solved together, and we're working towards something. Um, like the I guess probably one of the biggest issues that I have in organizations is um, the amount of airtime that people get within a meeting is not fixed, and
Yeah.
does is not always properly distributed. So sometimes the person who's talking the most should be talking the least, and the person who's talking the least should be talking the most. Like that stuff can happen in organizations on any given day. So we don't value enough novice perspectives. We don't value enough um, people who don't have the necessary expertise. So what I'm picturing is like this AI is going to be able to adopt the role of facilitator and not just manage all that shared language stuff and that sort of thing. Um, one 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 version of it, like an early stage sort of MVP type version of it, was if we build like a conflict radar that can sort of detect before humans are even able to, when conflict is brewing, based on changes in the speech rate, based on changes in the pace of speech, like vocal prosody, like there's perhaps facial expressions, like there's different things that we can point to if we're trying to identify when is conflict actually starting and when do we need to do something about it. So
Right. Yeah,
it's
because I think we're at least at this stage now, organization wise, is that have you guys seen the Australian show Utopia?
no
No.
no
Okay. Right. Well, it's
it's
kind
now
of it's basically what we're discussing right now is with I guess your standard organizations, like whether it's corporate or white collar jobs.
mm,
What happens in a lot of organizations is that hey, whether you're in a meeting between departments or maybe even within your department, you'll have a certain meeting about a certain topic, and uh, look, you'll get one of three outcomes. If you're lucky, you go into the meeting, you discuss the various agenda points, and you actually walk out of the meeting with actionable points, and you know exactly which department is supposed to do what, and that's if you're entirely lucky.
mm,
There's that type of outcome. Another outcome is you go into the meeting and certain people don't really understand why they're there, and you walk out of the meeting being like, I feel like this could have all been explained to me in an email. So
mm,
you're wasting some employees' time for them being in that meeting. And then there's the third one, which is probably the worst outcome. You go in there with all the best intentions of the various departments, or even within your department, that you're going to have an actionable points coming out of it, and a whole lot of windbagging, a whole lot of talking. But actually, what ends up happening is you have to schedule another meeting for the meeting that you just had, and you've walked out achieving absolutely nothing. So, as organizations stand, and I'm sure there might be listeners, there might be viewers that have rolled their eyes at me explaining all of that because they know the frustration out of that.
mm,
If what you plan to, I guess, get off the ground, if it's able to interpret, because like when I was reading the stuff that you sent across to us, the first thing that kind of came to my mind is, like the prompts that you do, whether it's in the generative AI right now, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Copilot, and all of that, where it's like, hey, there's this really convoluted topic. Explain it to me as if I was a 6-year-old. Explain it to
mm,
me as if I was a 10-year-old. Like, I kind of the picture that I get in my head when I think of, Conversa AI, I guess asterisks above, we don't know what you're going to call it, is, hey, I'm part of department in finance. We've talked about these actionable points, and the transcript from out of the meeting has said we've discussed X, Y, and Z. Throw it into Conversa AI. Explain it to me as if I'm an accountant. Like almost do
ah
that,
yeah
almost as if to do that in real time.
sure
So whatever, I don't know, Betty was talking about in marketing, and whatever, I don't know, uh, whatever Steve was talking about in operations, and they're like, okay, this is the information that I need to hear as an accountant or as the finance a person. I Now that they put it in my jargon, I can kind of understand what the hell they were trying to get across.
mm,
And maybe these are the points. Like, I don't know, maybe Conversa AI does that on the flow, and it's like, oh yeah, I get what you mean. I think we should do X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, on their iPad, they're like, oh, okay, this is what finance needs, and me as a marketer,
Yeah.
and it's
So
able to interpret what the other person needs.
yeah. In terms of like those additional functions, like I guess I mean from the perspective of trying to build anything, you kind of have to go for the simplest thing to build first, just as proof of concept.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but this is absolutely one of the directions that I can see, the platform going in is
yeah,
having an intermediate sort of layer which is directly accessible to you,
yeah.
which also sits in on the meetings as well. Now, in my mind, like how I first came up with this was, have you played around with ChatGPT voice mode at all, or any voice modes, or
Not really. I've more like to type things out, but that's just my
yeah,
personal preference.
in general, I am too. Turns out, like where I actually sit is I prefer to dictate my thoughts out aloud into one massive text box, press enter, and then have the AI respond to me based on that. Because what actually happens in voice conversations is it's like they design the voice mode to be a bit more natural, as in you talk, I talk. There might be some times when we're both cutting over each other, um, but it's meant to be a bit more flowy and
Mm,
natural conversation. So you're not gonna get the AI like outputting just talking at you for like 10 minutes straight, which is what would happen if it were to read out the answers that it gives you to a text-based prompt.
mm,
Um, so, but what I pictured was like it's gotten. We're at the stage now where we understand turn-based conversation very well. So it's like your turn to talk, my turn to talk,
Speak for
your
yourself.
mm.
turn to.
Sorry.
Sorry, what was that, Big Day?
I just said speak
Yeah,
for yourself. I
Right.
never know when
Okay.
it's my turn to talk.
Also, I'd like to caveat, Kareem, if I've been putting your ID for Conversa AI too much into a box of what I've interpreted, please like knock it back if I've
no,
been
no,
too
it's
specific.
like I guess um, what excites me is that you're excited about it.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
it's not you're not yeah, you're not casting it in the wrong light or anything like that. It's like you're talking about some cool stuff. It's like, okay, I can kind of see how we could do that. But like it wouldn't be a part of like the MVP version that I've got it like minimum viable product that I've got to build before I can show it to anybody and prove that it actually works because people want
Right.
results. They don't like concepts, ideas. They need something tangible. So
But then again, like even with the term that you use MVP. Like minimal viable product was not the first thing that came
yeah,
to my
yeah.
mind.
So that's
My
corporate talk. It's
but I guess what my point is that the first thing that came to my mind is obviously most value player or very important,
yeah,
most important person, not the I guess the jargon that you were referring to.
yeah,
But
the
hopefully,
absolute.
Conversa AI would be like, oh, hey, he didn't
He
mean
didn't
most
actually
value.
mean that.
That he didn't actually mean that. He meant this. And
Yeah,
hey, you're a finance person. This can be related to X concept, and this relates to your accounting and your way of understanding things. And I can be like, oh, okay, that sounds very nice. Let's go on.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
So, but I think the right way to handle it is to have the AI as an actual conversation participant
mm,
because otherwise, what will wind up happening is like you'll need to navigate the conversation, a group conversation happening in real time, plus your interactions with your own computer, which are related, but could be giving you like an extra source of information, which might help translate some of the stuff, like you were saying. But it might also compete for attention from what's happening in the actual conversation. Now, if it's a 3 hour meeting and you're not that interested in what everyone has to say, then fair enough, that makes perfect sense. But like, to what extent are we compromising on being present within a meeting versus facilitating or communication within the meeting. So that's why I think it makes more sense to me to have the AI as an actual group participant. You treat it like you would anybody else in the conversation. Hey, AI, tell me this. Hey, what do you think about this? Or like, really, what I'm most excited about is like it won't interrupt you without a purpose anymore. So it will know if it's hearing two people talk and it's not time for it to interject, it will let one person talk and then it will let the next person talk without having to say anything in between. Yeah.
Mm.
And then when it decides the third person talks and he's been talking too much, so we can't do anything about it. So we've got to do something about that. I'm sorry, I noticed that Anna was sharing an idea and she hadn't finished completely sharing her idea. Do you mind if we let her continue going on with that? I will come back to you later and we'll check in with what you had to say. So stuff like that, like gentle redirections, gentle course corrections. Like when you've seen, I guess when you've seen a professional facilitator like at work and how they navigate group dynamics and all the different buttons and levers that they're pushing throughout the course of one group session, um, it starts to make more sense what something like Converse AI will actually be capable of, provided we give it the right data set.
Yeah,
So
right.
because I'd argue that most people have not seen like professional level facilitation in a group dynamic before. Like you haven't seen like and this is the thing, like organizations know that this is one of their biggest struggling areas. Yeah, like they like it's they call it a meeting tax. Like I think the amount of time
That's an official term,
yeah. There's a
right?
coordination tax and there's a meeting tax. The amount of time that people spend in meetings that people feel was unproductive. So I think might have been 31 hours a month in the US, or I could be
Wow.
making that up, but yeah, the unproductive meeting hours. Like, um, that's just one symptom of poor communication. Yeah,
Mm.
that's just one symptom of like time wasted in meeting hours. That's not to mention, all the ideas that didn't get heard, all the things that all the creativity that got left unsaid, that we didn't nurture, that we didn't collaborate on, that we couldn't optimize in that group environment. Like organizations miss out on this stuff as well. Like if they've got the actual solutions to big problems that they're facing, but because Joe from marketing doesn't have any technical expertise, no one wanted to listen to him, so he couldn't get any airtime in the meeting. Um, like the AI will be able to solve we'll be able to solve like at least like the speaker time designation. How much floor time does each person actually get to talk? Can it make a decision around who needs more floor time versus who doesn't? Like there are just so many nuances to like there's nuance to individual conversation. The moment you put it in a group dynamic, like just put it on steroids, like combinatorial explosion of variables that are interacting with each other to form what what constitutes effective communication to each person in that moment, which could be two very different things. So
Right. But yeah, no, but that is fascinating because if you are able to, I guess, have a baseline of facilitator that is at people's fingertips, like that's some revolutionary shit right there.
well, that's that. So part of the strategy is I got to find these people and I got to record them because they're going to form the core of the data set that we're working with for Converse AI. So
Right.
there'll be a whole bunch of other data that goes into it, but um, if you haven't been exposed to it, you don't really know what to look for. that's 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 what makes it difficult. But
Yeah,
once
but
you've seen,
that's also where your structured versus unstructured data points are going to come from, right? Because you're going to have various goals as to what you would want from uh, I guess for heuristic purposes, let's just call it a facilitator AI. There's some things that are going to be hard goals, but then maybe in terms of unstructured data points as well, it might go in various directions as to paths of least resistance that makes it much more versatile in ways that you didn't think were worth it, but then
totally.
turned out to be benefits.
Yeah, no, this thing is likely to have like emergent capabilities, and it's probably one of the things I'm most fascinated by in the field of AI is how do these systems develop capacities that we didn't actually train them for, that we didn't know they were going to develop. So, I'm talking about all the cool stuff that this theoretical AI might be able to do. It might be able to do even cooler stuff on top of that I haven't even thought of.
Well, that's the thing about like some of the most a lot of the technology that we take for granted, or at least some of the technology that we take for granted, its origins were the scientist was hoping to use it to do something completely different, aka the microwave, and then they happened to accidentally do something, aka instead of sending the microwave waves as a communication, they accidentally, like, I think it was melted chocolate in their pocket.
Really?
And then
Yeah,
they're like, oh yeah, microwaves are awesome for like reheating shit. So like sometimes you just stumble on a use case for something when you're doing something completely different.
Yeah, this
That's how we learned how to fire clay as well.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't remember the full story. But the basket or whatever they had the food in kind of was too close to the fire and solidified or something. Or I wouldn't do it justice trying to explain it, but it was something like that. And they realized it was harder than and more durable than it was otherwise.
Right, as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents.
Yeah. A lot of things we discover are completely by accident.
So what were you saying?
That, though, but yeah.
No, you're all right. Kareem, what were you saying just before?
No, I just I don't mind happy accidents as long as I get to claim the credit for them.
Yes, true. I'm sure.
I had no idea what I was doing, but it's mine anyway.
No, I was just thinking. God, my biology teacher is probably very angry at me right now. But the Watson and Crick and the lady who actually did all the hard work behind finding DNA, and she didn't get any credit for it. For some reason, her name escapes me, and I'm sure I feel like I can hear in the ether my biology teacher yelling at me. But yeah, it does.
I feel like we should look that one up.
Yeah, probably.
Just for the curious listener.
Some people don't get credit, especially when they put in all the hard work. So
it's look, I mean, at this stage, I've just got a whole bunch of dreams and well-written concepts, but I haven't actually built anything just yet. So, but something I touched on earlier is that, like, there are ethical implications of building something like this because, theoretically, I mean, the AI could get good at persuasion, could get good at manipulation based on this data set. Based on these capabilities. Like, do we want an AI like that facilitating our meetings? Are there some meetings that we don't want facilitated? There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to get considered in that space before it actually gets built, ideally.
Well, I guess if it's reliable, if it ends up being reliable and people see the use cases for it, maybe it becomes undeniable that your meeting wouldn't be as efficient if you didn't use it. But
see, that was the point that I raised, is that like the meetings that we would have to decide whether or not we want to build this thing, which should be, you know, some very robust discussion around like the ethical issues around it. Um, this thing would help us have those meetings to begin with anyway. So it's like
Oh, do you feel like that's a bit circular?
it's definitely circular, but um, the the beauty of it is that we can build it in like the capabilities can be incremental. It doesn't have to be, you know, all or nothing. So we're probably not going to get exactly what we're shooting for on the first try anyway. It's going to take a whole lot of fine tuning and a whole bunch of stuff. But again, theoretically, the capability should progress, like improve incrementally. So
That would be a little existential from the Conversa AI during those meetings, right? It's like I'm here to facilitate as to whether I should exist or not. Please think thoroughly.
that would be a fascinating conversation. I'd love to be in that conversation. Eh? I'd be like, well, of course we can't trust you. You're facilitating the. It would be like, I completely understand. I'm going to go there. You guys sort this
I
out yourself.
abdicate myself from this responsibility.
Yeah. Just be like, your ethical concerns are completely warranted, and the only way I can resolve them is by leaving. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah, it's like I now understand this conflict of interest, and I will abdicate the seat of the facilitator.
Yeah. So, look, I'm hopeful that we can work out all the ethical issues, or at least we can find safeguards, or we can find a way to protect ourselves from like the downsides of it. I'm still pretty keen on the idea as a whole. I'm not saying those conversations don't need to be had; they definitely need to be had. But I just my intuition is that we'll be able to resolve whatever comes out of that. By making some smart decisions and putting some good guardrails in place. And so,
okay,
whatever happens next, no idea.
Well, I feel like we've had a pretty good discussion today, and thank you, Kareem, for taking us through some aspects of Conversa AI and what we can expect from Conversa AI. Because I kind of felt like that was a good deep dive into what I've wanted to discuss with radical empathy and also humanism. So thank you very much for that. And of course, we go to the last segment of the podcast. Who wants to have a crack as to what the prompt was for this one, gents?
Hand holding.
What do we reckon?
Are robots empathizing with humans?
Big D?
Huh?
I'm not sure what the prompt would be, but I kind of see that the two big ones are mirroring the two the two robots are mirroring the two people.
Okay. Well, the prompt for this one is Conversa AI and social intelligence using humanism and radical empathy to mold man and machine to make a better society.
Oh, wow. Okay. You go quite detailed with your prompts now, eh?
That's deep.
Yeah, but like I'm just fascinated that it created like a couple of robots that are holding hands and then a couple of humans that are holding hands. And I feel like what it's trying to say is that the Conversa AI almost builds like a hive network in order of understanding people, because then the humans down the track can understand each other.
Building a hive network.
Sorry?
Did you say building a hive network?
Yeah, like I think that's the implication of the robots that are there that are supposed to be the AI that are holding hands. And then you have the two humans behind it that are also holding hands. So the hive network of the Conversa AI leads humans to understand each other more. So almost as if there's a virtual cycle between Conversa AI facilitating and understanding humans, and then humans understanding each other, and then it becomes a better artificial intelligence.
I didn't realize you thought so deeply about these things. This is awesome.
Philosophy background, man.
Yeah, but I never heard him actually like describing like how systems acquire understanding. Like, sorry, it's brand new to me. Like, we have much to discuss. Put it that way.
Okay, and thank you, Big D. Thank you, Kareem, for joining us today. Really appreciate it, lads.
Thank you for us.
And to sign us off, I'll do it today since Mr. E isn't here. Remember, everyone, to keep thinking and keep learning. And thank you again for joining today. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. And have a good day and have a good night.
Enjoy.